What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today I would like to talk a little bit about what's been going on lately with CD Projekt Red and The Witcher 3 and the general downgrade debate that people have been talking about on all social forums, and what the hell do I know. As most of us do know by now, the downgrade has been confirmed. At least a small downgrade has been confirmed by CD Projekt Red themselves. And yes, the game obviously doesn't hold up to the quality of the Sword of Destiny trailer, which was shown before the game came out. But to analyze this problem, I think we would have to go actually back and look where the roots of the actual downgrade, of the actual changes are. And I think the beginnings of all that mess actually started with the Sword of Destiny trailer and what happened between Sword of Destiny and the Elder Blood trailer. So, in the beginning there were only some screenshots showing graphical deficits in various regions, such as unconformity of quality across the board between some regions of the game and others. Also, of course, the Elder Blood trailer appeared, and fears of major downgrade went up. People were raging all about the quality problems, and fortunately, in the end, there was no major downgrade, at least in my personal opinion. But there was still a little bit of a downgrade. So despite CD Projekt Red trying their best to obviously dissolve the situation and downplay the actual severity of the problem, something became clear. And that is that the game had serious quality issues with different, which were different from region to region, and which were especially bad when frost or snow effects were involved, like some of the regular forum members did actually conclude pretty quickly after the Elder Blood trailer was released. And I think actually that was about the moment that CD Projekt Red started to think about the game, its quality, and what they have to do with it to make it better for the player. Now, before we talk about that, let's get back a second, keeping that in mind of course, and talk about performance. By now we do know of some of the reasons for the quality drop in graphics and the general downgrade. CD Projekt Red officially stated that they changed the rendering engine to adjust to the console hardware and get the game stable on the consoles, and while I do not at all support that, on the contrary, I rather completely reject the idea of console parity. I do think that there are other reasons for the downgrade as well that CD Projekt Red have not officially stated. See, I remember way back when CD Projekt Red originally said the game would be running at 30 FPS on all platforms. All platforms. That includes PC. And as you can probably imagine, what it meant a lot for the PC players that the game actually was on 60 FPS. You can probably guess how most of the PC players actually reacted the first time they heard about 30 FPS on PC. Now, I'm a PC player myself. Now, why I myself was disappointed as well, I did accept the fact pretty well and pretty fast, but that doesn't count for all players, of course, and a lot of PC gamers are very, very proud and very fond of their 60 FPS fluid experience, and so those people were obviously very angry and very afraid about the final quality and performance of the game. So let's summarize shortly the general problems at CD Projekt Red, in my opinion of course, had at the beginning when the Elder Blood trailer, about when the Elder Blood trailer hit the internet. That is, for example, the first point is people were talking about the graphical downgrade. The screenshots and trailers left them disappointed and mistrustful, and in comparison to the Sword of Destiny and 2013-2014 trailer footage, they had a right to be a little bit disappointed, because obviously the Sword of Destiny trailer marked a very, very amazing quality in terms of graphical fidelity and details shown in the actual gameplay footage. Watch Dogs, AC Unity and other failures in terms of graphical downgrade or performance issues we're still kind of in the bones of those people. Especially those PC people who became very mistrustful towards any PC port these days, because most of them were riddled with bugs and technical issues and FPS drops and everything else. Just, it made them suspicious of the final quality of the game, which was a big problem, of course, in terms of pre-orders and also in terms of how many people in the end will buy the game. Then we got a second problem, the consoles. As we know now, consoles built were far from stable at the beginning, looking at it from a technical and FPS point of view. The hardware couldn't handle what they actually intended to do with it, and as we, or at least as I think, and many of you might share this opinion, the PS4 and the Xbox One are simply not what the PS3 and the Xbox 360 were in their release days. It's just not comparable in terms of what the hardware can handle and how advanced it is. Then we're going to the third problem, which is the 30-60 FPS issue on PC. People didn't want 30 FPS gameplay on PC. They had their PCs because they wanted 60 FPS gameplay, because they had more powerful machines. They had the capacity to do that, and they wanted to use that completely. More graphical fidelity, 60 FPS, better performances. That's what PC is all about. That's why people buy a PC, because they want the best out of the best. And that was not a given at the beginning when CD Projekt Red stated that all platforms would have 30 FPS at the beginning at the release. So PC players wanted 60 FPS and were not very kind or not very friendly towards the idea of 30 FPS on The Witcher 3, which is supposed to be one of the best RPGs, at least from what they saw in the trailers and what they saw in the gameplay footage and all that. Especially considering it's CD Projekt Red, right? I mean, it's a company that was always proud and always stood in for the PC crowd. Their origins come from the PC. They always wanted to be there for PC players. I mean, the game was never perfectly optimized in previous years, but you gotta say, this company, it only did 3 AAA games so far. Although The Witcher 1 couldn't really be counted as a AAA game, so actually they only did 2 AAA games now, The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3, not The Witcher 1. And The Witcher 1 was kind of their starting baby, their first game, their first real big game. And considering they always cater towards the PC crowd, this was a thing that PC players didn't at all expect and were very disappointed about. And then we have the fourth and the last issue. There were huge differences in graphical quality between different regions of the game, especially if ice and snow were involved. We did see that in the Elder Blood trailer when the King of the Wild Hunt steps out and frost is everywhere, but we don't see really good frost effects, and everything gets has a really bad texture quality when you look at it. And despite CD Projekt Red telling us that it was YouTube compression that did that, a lot of forum members did actually have the theory that there was a problem with the frost effects, And based on the screenshots that were made before and that were released, where a lot of people said downgrade, downgrade, there were certain regions, especially those with snow, that simply didn't have the graphical quality the rest of the game had. So they had those 4 problems. In light of those 4 problems, I'm sorry to say that, but that might be changing the engine, changing the rendering engine was the best and only reasonable solution in my personal opinion. I mean, that does not in the least mean it is okay for CD Projekt Red to do something like that, or that we should just ignore it completely and say, yeah, it's CD Projekt Red, what the hell do I care? Nice games, they're good company. I don't care if they showed us better footage before and then we are getting a little bit worse footage and all that. No,
so long.
We don't do that. They should be, of course, held responsible for what they did, and we should keep that in mind, that they did that, and CD Projekt Red should be careful not to do that in the future anymore, because if they do that again, we can't trust them anymore, right? Should CD Projekt Red ever feel like they might be falling into the trap of showing better footage than the final game actually is again, they should of course be honest to us and say, hey look guys, the game is not 100% stable yet. We do not know if that is the final quality, so it could be a little bit worse than that, keep that in mind. It's the quality we want. They can say that, of course, that's the quality they strive to actually reach with the game, but we do not know if we can deliver it completely. And that is honesty. I don't care how it is released, if it's done in a text before the trailer they are showing, or if they give out a statement on IGN and Game Informer and all the other sites which are constantly reporting on developers and development process and all this. The important thing is that they actually put it out there and say, hey look, we don't know if the game will look that way. We envision it that way, we want it to be that way, but we don't know if it's 100% stable in the size and the actual scale we do make the game in the end. I mean, the Witcher 3, it obviously was actually a problem that they didn't know how big the game would be in the end. They told us multiple times in interviews that they started with specific areas and quest designs in mind, but that the areas and the regions and the quests did grow and grow and grow on them to the point where they actually had to retreat some or take back some of their statements about the world size, because they didn't know anymore if that was accurate enough, if it was maybe too little what they said, because there were regions added and added and added, and in the end it was way bigger than they actually imagined. So I think that might also be a problem hanging together with that the general problem with the downgrade and the rendering engine and the stable performance on consoles and the stable 60 FPS performance on PC itself. I think, yeah, despite 90% of the companies, of the AAA companies doing the same, CD Projekt Red is a special case. As a developer who cares so much about the games and about the gamers themselves, as a dev who prides themselves with being consumer friendly, honest and upstanding, they have certain responsibilities to carry. I'm sorry to say that, but it is that way. The fact is, we are used to them being who they are and standing for what they believe in. And as such a company, the expectation of people, especially fans, are obviously higher than for any other company. The criticism is obviously sharper than for any other company. But of course the love and the loyalty the fans share with the company is also higher. So as a company who holds such high standards, the fans obviously expect more from them, holding them to higher standard. And I think that is what makes CD Projekt Red what they are at the moment in the gaming industry. And this is the very reason why they should avoid situations like this one in the future, to not get lost, to not lose themselves kind of in the industry and forget who they are and what they came from, and to at the same time not show show their fans that they are still caring about them and that they are still the honest company they were from the beginning on. And I think as a company with such high standards and such high expectations for themselves, they should hold up to those expectations, of course. As a conclusion and a little bit to their defense, I gotta say they made an amazing game. Not a flawless game by far, but an amazing game. In my opinion, The Witcher 3 lifted the standard for RPGs of our time by quite a large margin. And it's one of the few games that I really would call next gen. Something I have to say to people comparing The Witcher 3 with games like Watch Dogs is that one always has to keep in mind that the rest of the game is also there. So you have to compare the whole game, not only the thing that obviously was done wrong, like the downgrade in both cases. If you take away the point of similarity, the graphical downgrade in this particular instance, and look at the game without it, you gotta ask yourself, what's left? What is the rest of the game like? And that is where the differences start. In Watch Dogs, for example, in Watch Dogs' case, we're left with a mediocre story, in my personal opinion, a short main storyline, an interesting character, and a little to no substantial side content, and admittedly some fun gameplay, but very limited gameplay at the same time. On the other hand, we have The Witcher 3, which has more narrative context and quality in some of their side quests than most of the recent AAA games have in the whole game time. And it has challenging combat, although the combat is obviously something not everyone likes, so you gotta keep that out a little bit. It has a good deal of interaction, it has interesting characters and a good main storyline. Of course, that's all my personal opinion, and some people might say, well, the game has too many cutscenes. I heard that complaint before. Or stuff like, I don't know, I don't really like the characters. I know it's someone, for instance, who didn't like the characters of The Witcher 2 at all. He said, well, he doesn't mind the game, but the characters themselves, they are displayed in a way that you don't really want to live in this world. And I kind of share that opinion, though I think that's what makes the game unique, but of course it's always a matter of taste. Nonetheless, I think the love and the actual time that went into this game, the handmade environments, the storyline, the narrative context, the decisions, the choices, the contracts, the monsters, and all this around give you a game that, despite maybe, even if you think the graphics are downright shit, everything else is up to a certain standard, to a standard that really is one of the best RPGs in the last years. And comparing it to games like Watch Dogs, who have not a lot else going for them aside from the next-gen graphics that they advertised, I think it is fair to say that The Witcher 3 at least delivered in the rest of the game, and that the graphics are, in my personal opinion, still one of the best in any open world game or RPG I've seen in the last years. I mean, of course, there can be a little bit small differences, like Shadow of Mordor might be a little bit better on ultra textures, or Something like that. But in the end, you gotta say that the game has a lot of good things going for it. And despite a slight graphical downgrade and the unfortunate way it was handled, you gotta say that CD Projekt Red still delivered a hell of a game, and aside from the graphics, they didn't lie about anything in the game, as far as I know. So what we gotta conclude is, CD Projekt Red, don't do that again, please. Just be honest with us like you always were before that. And aside from that, it's a great game. I don't see the big problems. We got one of the best releases actually in recent times. The game was so stable, and even with the problems some people had, especially AMD users, CD Projekt Red soon released 4 patches in a little bit more than a week, which is a hell of a lot of short time for 4 patches if you compare it to any other company on the market. And they're already releasing more patches. They have 16 free DLCs and 2 expansion packs, which are all together more than 30 hours of game content. So in the end, I think the graphical downgrade is not as bad as it seems. Sure, a thing to remember and to say, don't do it again, but nothing more. As always, people, if you like my videos, subscribe to my channel for more content, maybe for some more discussions to recent themes as well. I'm always open for something like that. More sneaky impressions are hopefully coming soon when I find some interesting games on Steam or GOG. And that's about it for The Witcher 3 and the graphical downgrade. See you in my next video.